afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Waterside Chat. Today we have the operations team and our HydroApps team with us, and we're going to have them introduce themselves first. So we'll begin with you, George.
Hey, good afternoon. I'm George Dynas with Counsilman-Hunsaker, and I specialize in feasibility studies.
Very good. Let's have Rich, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rich DeMayo. I am the Director of HydroApps here at Counsilman-Hunsaker. Glad to be with you today.
And we'll move over to Miklos.
Spacebar wasn't working for me. Hi, I'm Miklos Valdez, the Director of our CHAMP Studio. That's our aquatic management program.
And last but not least, Paul David.
Yeah, I'm Paul David Morgan. I'm with Counsilman-Hunsaker, and I really handle our operations and training throughout our programs as well. So.
Very good. I'm glad you guys all had the time to join us today. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with COVID-19. And we realize that this is a kind of a day-to-day type thing. We're getting new information almost every single day. I've heard organizations talking about making plans A, B, C, D, E, all the way through almost the entire alphabet because they just don't know what's going on. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some questions out to you guys and get your feedback and opinion of where we stand and where we're going to be going. Let's start with Miklos. Miklos, can you talk about if a facility is operating on a skeleton crew, should there be any projects that they should be keeping busy with, cleaning, repairing, or should they just pretty much lay their crews off?
Sure. Yeah, now's a good time to do some cleaning or other small projects. If you are one of those that have to be at the facility, maybe you're the one going in and doing the daily chemical checks or facility checks, and so you're already there. Go ahead and tackle some of those smaller projects that you can handle on your own, or maybe with the handful of other staff that have to be there at the facility. But right now is probably not the best time to bring in your army of lifeguards and come in and start really doing a big deep clean or maybe acid washing your pool. You really just don't want people there unless they absolutely have to be there. So what we're recommending is more catching up on some of those office and administrative type items that often get put on the back burner. Things like going over your concessions or inventory processes, things that are important for a high profit concessions operation. Maybe you've been waiting on that, so now's a good time to do that while there's nobody at the facility and you've got some time to do it. Reviewing SOPs and EAPs are going to be something that everyone's going to have to do before we open back up. And there's been a lot of changes that have come out recently, a lot of updated disinfection requirements and disinfection recommendations. And so now's a good time to add those into your SOPs. For instance, right now, the ARC released guidance on using a BVM for one rescuer, which is something that hasn't been done in the past for the Red Cross. And so if your facility wants to, that's something that you can add into your program and to your training plans. One thing that COVID has definitely shown us is how essential online sales is. And so if you don't have the ability at this point, now is a great time to make that happen. While a lot of facilities have been doing this for programs and maybe for a handful of other things, we've really, as an industry, probably lagged on memberships and rentals. And so figuring this out is going to really give you a big edge. And if you're one of those that has no online presence at all and no ability to take sales online, you're really at a disadvantage compared to everybody else. So those are the things that I'd recommend doing right now while we're trying to figure out, what the world looks like here in the next few months.
So George, Miklos brought up the idea that maybe not having your entire staff in there once doing that big deep clean right now. But if I do have my staff in there, what kind of in-services should I be taking advantage of that maybe I don't get to do on a normal type of in-service educational opportunity?
Yeah, I think the big thing right now is obviously we want to maintain those social distancing protocols. And one of the perfect ways to do that is through the wealth of webinars and education that is out there within the aquatics industry right now. So there are several different groups, Counsilman-Hunsaker included, that have provided some online training, some online state of the industry type webinars. And so I think that's one of the best ways that we can incorporate, our team members that either aren't working or we can't have them at our facility because it's closed, or we can't have, more than a few people that are on opposite ends of a 50-meter pool at any given time. And so taking advantage of those online trainings right now, I see is just a great opportunity to help the staff continue to grow and improve, and then they'll be trained at an even higher level once facilities are back up and running.
And Rich, George brought up a great point about doing some of the educational stuff and sticking with the social distancing, being safe. Does HydroApps have anything that can help with tracking of virtual trainings per se? It's one thing to see everybody sitting in a room, but if I'm sending it to them at their houses, how am I tracking that?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. I'm glad you brought me in there because I was thinking just exactly of this. So one of the biggest concerns we've been hearing from the industry is how to keep their staff engaged and how potentially to ramp them up quickly when in fact they do get to a reopening point. And a lot of our customers are telling us they're turning to blended learning programs that their staff can access online. So based on some customer requests we've had recently, we have actually added a feature to HydroApps called blended learning tracking. And basically what it does is it lets students record and upload their proof of completion for online training courses. So basically what a facility can do is they can move all their classroom training to blended learning. And then again, from your home office, we're all working at home offices, you can pretty easily see all the staff, and you can use applicants too, all your applicants that have completed their online training, and who's in the best position to ramp up quickly, when it is in fact time to reopen, and you can go back into your facility and you can do just the skills and ramp up a lot quicker. The other thing that we've done with the blended learning is all the users of blended learning too during the closure period. We made a special effort to give them all access to Lifeguard Manager, so that if you're a blended learning user, you get access to blended learning and Lifeguard Manager both. And Lifeguard Manager is a little bit more encompassing. It allows you to manage all their certifications, all their training, not just the blended learning, and all their skills tracking, when you do come in back online. So for a temporary period, you're going to have access to all that. We think that taking things online is going to give our customers an edge when it comes time to get back and get up and running.
Very good. Let's take an opportunity here now to kind of pull the curtain back on the pump room a little bit. Paul David, let's move down to you. One of the things that we keep hearing a lot about is this ramping up period. If my facility is sitting empty right now, maybe I've got water in the pool, what chemistry advice should we be following to not only keep the pool safe now, but be ready for that ramp up and ready to go?
Well, that's a good question, Kent. I mean, first of all, if you have water in the pool and your systems are running, then you definitely want to keep those, minimum standards. We want to keep our systems maintained. We want our chemistry going. So you're going to need someone going in there, and at least once a day and, checking on things. The national standards would be at least 1 part per million of free chlorine. That's really all you need right now to keep that water going. Keep in mind the pH really needs to keep that ideal range, though, so the chlorine stays effective. That's really important as well. So, and don't forget about balancing tests occasionally. And now that's just, I hate to get on my soapbox, but don't forget all of our other checks occasionally, once a week and whatnot, to keep your water balanced. And you want to protect that facility and keep the pool brushed, vacuum regularly, things like that. So it's also important to keep all of our systems running properly, such as our circulation, UV, HVAC systems. Have a qualified operator maintaining that equipment, those daily and weekly checklists. So that's, but if we can do that, then we're one step away from just opening the facility. The staff can come back in and do a quick, dusting and cleaning, if you want to say, spruce it up, and then you're ready to open. So it should be that easy.
Excellent. George, he was just talking about, the staff comes back in, let's get the facility going again. If I had loss or layoff during the time, during this quarantine, what do I need to do to be prepared to bring my staff back in and or get new staff?
Yeah, so I think at this point, communication with human resources is essential, and what does a layoff or a furlough mean in the technical terms of HR language about bringing people back to work. But then also, I think we have to recognize that, once your facility is given the green light to open, that doesn't, in the world of lifeguarding, that doesn't mean you get to open right away. In terms of indoor swimming pools, outdoor swimming pools, you don't just get to flip a switch and open, as Paul David mentioned, with the mechanicals, and you got to get the chlorine back up. But the biggest thing that we would see is to reorient the staff. They have been off for 4 to 5 weeks at this point, where they have not done any type of hands-on CPR training, in-water rescue training. They have not been doing their 500-yard swim every week. And so, you're gonna need some time to get them trained. And obviously, the lifeguarding industry right now is looking at, okay, what does that mean with social distancing protocols? Mick mentioned, having the single BVM for every rescuer, and how do you do, choking, conscious choking guests when you have to stay 6 feet away from somebody, right? So you're going to have to be rethinking all of the ways that we train our lifeguard team throughout this shutdown.
And Miklos, we talk of this, new normal, whatever that is going to be, and we've heard the social distancing in place. George just gave us a great example of, not being quite sure how rescues may have to happen. What other areas do facilities need to be aware of when we talk about social distancing?
Yeah, I don't even know if new normal is the right way to put it. It's not going to be normal at all, right? Everything's really going to need to change on how we operate to really prepare for life after. Really, actually, for the next few months, it's really probably going to be living life with COVID. We're likely not going to see the end of this for quite a while. So things like, enhanced cleaning practices that we're probably doing right now in a lot of our facilities are going to have to keep on. And so updating checklists, updating your daily procedures to make sure that that those enhanced cleaning practices are taking place is going to be one of those things. Not only in what we're cleaning and the effectiveness of the disinfectants that we're using, but also the frequency and how often we're cleaning. Do we clean every hour? Do we clean every half hour? Or every time somebody touches something, do we need to clean that object or that handle or whatever it is? And so those things are going to need to be really thought out and put into place. And that's something that we're working on right now here at Counsilman-Hunsaker is what are those best practices. Like I mentioned before, changes to EAPs and SOPs are going to be key as well. Like George was talking about with lifeguard training and EAPs, there's going to be a lot of changes to how we interact with guests and interact with our patrons, and what do we do during rescues or during emergency situations. Lifeguards are used to having to deal with some bit of a risk of transmission while doing rescues, so that's nothing new. COVID is just a different concern now that has been added to the long list of concerns that have already been there. So what are some of the changes that we can make to maybe lessen the risk and still do the jobs that lifeguards need to do in keeping our patrons safe? And that's something else that's currently being worked on by a lot of companies in the industry, and we're getting new information out every day. And so that's something we're constantly updating as well. Like George said, training practices are going to have to change. Can you bring all of your staff in now, or do you have to do it in groups of 10 or groups of 20? Once things open up a little bit more, maybe we can do it in groups of 50, but a lot of our water parks have a lot more staff than 50. And so how do we manage all of that? How do we train all of those staff members cohesively? Programs are going to have to change. Can we bring in large groups of swim lessons anymore? We may have to do one-on-one swim lessons for a while. We may have to do parent-led swim lessons, or like I talked about earlier, like we talked about offering, digital classes or online type training. Maybe we can offer digital swim lessons. The industry is going to have to be creative to create some new programs and new opportunities there. Rentals may have to change, how we administer those. The number of people in our facilities may have to change as well. Right now, we just don't know what that's going to look like. We've seen in some of the recommendations that as things start to open up, we can have maybe facilities open up, but at a less capacity. But what does that look like? How many people can we have in a certain area of our water park, or how many people can we have in a pool? What do we need to be able to maintain those 2 meter, 6 foot distances, and maintain, effective social distancing? All of that is going to change how we operate our facilities, and we're going to get new information out every day. And so we're going to have to really be very vigilant and update policies as we get more information.
And Paul David, we talk about outdoor pools, indoor pools. Maybe my facility is in a state where, they've pushed a lot of things back into June or July. What can I do to reduce some of my costs and still keep my pool essentially ready?
Okay, so if you're wanting to keep it ready but lower some costs, there are definitely a few ways that we can do that and still maintain facility readiness. Since there's no swimmers, if you're saying that there aren't anyone in the water, then you can definitely keep that chlorine at the very minimum. So reducing it down to that 1 part per million will really help a little bit of chemical costs. Just keep in mind that pH needs to stay ideal. The second is you can lower the temperature of the water. If it's an indoor facility, you can lower the temperature a little bit. Don't get too crazy on it, like turn off the heaters, but you can, lower it to a point, and that will cut definitely some heating costs as well. So if you're going to run at a lower temperature and you've got HVAC systems, I want to point out, to help lower those costs, don't forget to do some regular preventative maintenance tasks on the HVAC systems, UV systems, feeders, motors, things like that, because some of those preventative measures really do help with cost effectiveness, believe it or not, on some of that. So, and one of the last things you can do, if you have the option to lower your circulation system and lower the flow rate to about 75%, then if the local and state codes allow you to do this, you are able to run at a slower speed for circulation. That will actually really help on electrical costs. And as long as you keep a little bit of circulation and keep that chemistry maintained, so we're not, growing things like algae that you have to clean up later, then, you're doing fine on that. So that will help tremendously on that.
Ken, I wanted to add one of the other things that you can do to lower costs, if you don't already, even at an indoor pool, is to add pool covers. That's something that the longer the pool cover stays on top of the water, the more that it will help in both heating costs and in HVAC costs. So even beyond this COVID environment, if you're looking to save money, even on an indoor facility, pool covers are a good way to do it as well.
Very good. Rich, with mitigation measures in place, can we ensure we're taking the right precautions to protect the public?
Yeah, thanks, Ken. Yeah, so, another thing that we've been hearing from our community is that once, in fact, they do open, it's going to be really important to their employees and to the members of their facilities to make them confident that they're doing the proper things to minimize the risk of transmission of COVID-19. A big part of this is going to be around cleaning and disinfecting. So, one of the things we've done within HydroApps is we've actually added a cleaning and disinfecting checklist, actually an enhanced cleaning and disinfecting checklist to our facility manager application. So basically what we've done is we've taken the cleaning guidelines from the CDC as it relates to COVID-19, and we've included specific tasks into our system that ensures that you are managing your facility properly. I think it was Paul David that talked a little bit a little earlier about the frequency of cleaning and those types of things. And our checklist includes multiple cleanings per day, and it includes following all the guidelines that have been laid out by the CDC to make sure that, in fact, you're in compliance with what the CDC recommends, and you're recording that in the checklist and reporting it and recording it electronically. Another thing that our customers can do, if they want to take it a step further, is it's actually possible to give the public access to the cleaning and disinfecting reports so that you can show them that, in fact, you can give them access to just that one report within HydroApps. So you can actually have a public login where they can see exactly what it is you're doing. And I think that's going to bring an extra level of comfort to them. And they can, in fact, see even when you did it. So as long as you're complying with those guidelines, it actually might be a nice thing to share that with your patrons so that they have confidence and they're going to want to go to your facility, not one that just reopened. It doesn't have anything out there available to tell them what you're doing. This feature is something that was recently added to all our facility manager instances. People that subscribe to Facility Manager, they all get it. All our existing customers get it. And it was something that we thought actually had to be included in HydroApps given the situation that we all find ourselves in today.
Very good. Very good. Miklos, should I be offering any kind of discounted memberships or offers to retain or gain new members in?
Yeah. So right now people are tightening their belts and really not making a whole lot of unnecessary purchases. So if you're gonna offer discounts, you really want to make sure you know why you're doing it. We don't recommend just going across the board and just start slashing prices. Really have a good game plan for that. If you're a water park that gets most of its money through concessions or through rentals, and you need that foot traffic through your park that you're likely not going to have this summer, then yeah, it might be a good idea to decrease your gate fees or decrease your membership fees to get more foot traffic in the door, and maybe increase that cost per person or revenue per person. But normally discounts really are just going to end up hurting your bottom line and your revenue. And so if you are going to offer them, you need to make sure that you're going to get enough people to make up for that decrease in revenue, that it ends up being a net increase. Instead of discounts, a lot of companies are offering programs to allow more time to pay for memberships, or offering grace periods. I'm pretty sure every car company out there is doing that right now, as well as mortgage companies. So if you can do that, by all means, do it. Everyone can use a little help these days. So if you're able to offer those sort of programs, by all means, do that. We're just not sure what memberships are going to look like, or what our facilities are going to look like. So just cutting fees across the board is just probably not the best idea right now. We just don't know what a post-COVID world is going to look like. Really, instead of doing that, we recommend doing some other stuff like to connect with your members and your users, having a bigger presence on social media will help. Social media traffic has soared right now. Facebook actually is having a tough time keeping up with everyone posting and everyone doing live videos and all that. And it makes sense. Everyone's at home and they want to connect with people. That's why we're doing a lot more of these face-to-face calls. At Counsilman-Hunsaker, we're doing a lot more. I think I've seen George more in the past couple of weeks over video than I normally see him on a daily basis. So that's great. So look for ways to connect with your customers, let them know what you're doing to be as clean, to keep your facility clean and as safe as possible, and what you're doing to prepare to open. Like Rich was talking about, if you've got the ability to include your public in what you're doing, open that up to them. So if you've got facility manager and you can make that happen, that's a great way to do that and to show the community what you're doing. But look for ways to connect with them and to keep that conversation going. Look for digital offerings for classes. What we're having to do is really adapt right now and see what are some of the things that we can do and what we can offer. A lot of places are doing digital fitness or other instructional classes, and the aquatics industry can do the same exact thing. Really what we're seeing is the more that you can stay in touch with your members, the more likely they're going to stay engaged. And then when you're ready to open, they're going to come back ready to go. So I think that's probably the most important thing right now.
What I'd like to do is kind of do an around the horn type thing. Can you tell I'm missing baseball? But kind of go around to each of you with the opportunity, whether it be your best advice that either you've heard in dealing with aquatic centers and facilities and water parks for this COVID-19 period. Maybe it could be the best advice you've heard about opening back up, staying closed, whatever it may be. Just some general advice that we can pass on to all of our viewers. So I will, let's start with George on this one.
Yeah, I think my advice right now would be to stay positive and resilient and not write off the summer season. We're seeing a lot of communities right now that are go ahead and voting. The pool's going to be closed this summer. And to me, I mean, it's just heartbreaking to see that, because seasonal outdoor swimming is ingrained in the lives of many Americans. And so, yes, not opening the seasonal pool will save money out of the overall city budget. And yes, it's probably an easy thing to say it's only a 3-month operation. And so I see where city officials can see, oh yeah, that's easy. We just want to open the pool this summer. But I think that where it's a little bit short-sighted is that they're forgetting how many kids learn to swim at that facility, how many families get to come together, the number of community members who lap swim and take fitness classes. And so I would urge the aquatic industry to not act too quickly on that, and to have a phased approach. Say that shelter-in-place orders are lifted at this point. It looks like May 1st would be the absolute earliest. If we're given the go-ahead May 1st, what does that look like in terms of our training and an opening timeline? Can we get open by June 1st? Can we get open June 15th? And then what if it's pushed back to May 15th? Can we open, June 15th to July 1st? And so to have all those plans in place so that when you are given the green light to open, you know exactly what to do. And as Mick said, you can communicate that to your members.
Let's go to Rich next.
Thanks, Ken. One of the things that seems clear to me is, when the order does come out, or when the restrictions are actually lifted and it is possible to open, it's going to be kind of a mad scramble to get everything ready and to make sure everything is in place so that you can open safely, and so that you can assure, let's say, the local health authorities that in fact you are going to be able to open safely. So the advice I would give is leverage the tools you have to be able to do that, particularly, and I'm biased on this point, but around technology. So the nice thing about a technical, a configurable solution like HydroApps, for example, is that they're all the systems are already set up and in place for you to be able to manage facility operations and maintenance. And quality system should be configurable to whatever situation that you find yourself in. So during your closure period, for example, your maintenance and operations are going to look a lot different than they are when you reopen. But with a system that's flexible enough to be adjusted depending on your current situation, you're going to be able to execute the things that you need to execute. You're going to be able to maintain the facility the way you need to maintain it. And you're going to be able, very importantly, to document that you've done it so you're ready to get going, when it is in fact time to open. So the documentation is going to be really important. The fact that you have that all taken care of automatically is going to be a real benefit, instead of scrambling to have to put something together, to prove, let's say, to the local health inspector or to the public at large, that you're ready. And then the other thing I would say too is stay engaged with your staff and your members, particularly around the staff. I think being engaged and being able to continue training, that's very important for their readiness, is going to be important, and leveraging systems just makes that much easier.
And let's move down to Paul David.
Sure, Kent. One of the things that, first of all, if I could just say ditto to both of those guys, that'd be great. So, I mean, what George said, I'm all about, that kind of stuff. And then Rich, but if I was to twist this at a different angle a little bit, one of my things is that if anyone's taking a class from me on, maintenance and water chemistry and stuff, is just someone's got to be monitoring that chemistry. If you're not doing anything in the pool, but the pool's still running and you have water in there, we need to make sure we're going through, the weekly checklist, we're checking, the water the way we're supposed to, making sure that we're responding for the water quality. It really helps your facility assets and your pool and your plaster and just everything. So keeping an eye on that total alkalinity and some of those values are just extremely important, as we all know. So that's one thing. I know that it's been suggested that we might even the cities might say, why don't we just drain the pool, save a lot of money on that. And so I'll tell you, that's heartbreaking, obviously, as well. And that's, even though that's not necessarily encouraged, I mean, that is another possibility. That's an option for some people. If your pool's been drained or is able to be drained, and stay drained for a while, then, that's fine. But, even in the summertime, you still got to go through that full winterization process, sealing the pipes and, the controllers, the probes, the UV systems, filters need to be properly winterized. They can't just sit there. So that takes a little bit of work. And then obviously there's going to be a lot of work to start it back up. So that's one thing to think about. But, that's not something we recommend. We obviously want to be ready to go because we think this, we do encourage the phased approach. So that would be along those lines. So that's what I got.
Excellent. Thank you. And Miklos, you get to kind of wrap us up on this one.
Yeah. What I'd recommend is just pretty simple. Just try to stay sane. We're all having a tough time. Right now it's unprecedented times, at least in our generation. So just help out your neighbors, help out each other, and try to keep yourself sane. This will pass. We'll get through it. And in the meantime, prepare as much as you possibly can. Hopefully this will be shorter rather than longer, and we'll get back to somewhat of a business as usual. So prepare as much as you can for that day and make all the changes that you need to make, in the time now when we can. So you don't want to be the last facility to open back up because you're trying to play catch up. Do what you can now to make sure that you're ready to open. And if you need help, always reach out to any of us. We're happy to help out with whatever we can.
Well, we want to say thank you to our panel for stopping by today and giving us great information. I think the summary we can take about this is be patient, be mindful, stay in contact with not only your staff, but your members, your clients, your guests, the people that are going to be bringing the money to you when you need it. But most of all, make sure that when you are ready, you're ready to jump the right way, get the right information from the right people. Stay tuned to the Counsilman-Hunsaker social media channels and our website for more information. And we thank you all for stopping by our Waterside Chat today.